Welcome to Backyard Bows. Hey, welcome to Backyard Bows. I'm Brandon, and today we have the Quest, the Centec by Quest. So this is, I would say, it's a G5 kind of sub company. So we're just going to call this Prime's budget bow. Designed by Prime, engineered by Prime. And two things. One, if you have not yet, go to the website, backyardbows.com, and get yourself one of these hats. We just restocked them. And for all of you who purchased that first round of hats that I got, we sold out within like 48 hours. I appreciate you guys. Anybody else who was looking for one and realized that they weren't available anymore, we just restocked them. So go online, get yourself a hat. We'll have other merchandise here in the future. We're kind of sifting through what we want to put up. So one thing that really interests me when I first started Backyard Bows was the budget bow category. When I started growing up, I was 100% on a budget. I was constantly looking for a great bow while being envious, you know, of the flagship bows and the guys who were shooting flagship bows, but I just couldn't afford one yet. But I wasn't going to let that stop me from getting into the field. So for years, I shot a ton of, you know, well-priced, lower tier bows from Bear Archery, other companies, and when doing this whole process, there are just so many. So you have your, you know, you do have a lot of flagship bows, but there is so many more budget bows. And I really wanted to find and separate the kind of trash from the nice quality, well-performing bows. And I feel like we've done that. So everything that we reviewed that's in our budget bow category, those are the bows that we finally got our hands on. And we have, you know, we thought, man, this is a good bow for the price. And I have honestly put my hands on, got way more budget bows in here than flagship bows. But if you look on our review categories, we have reviewed way more flagship bows. So that tells you, man, there's not a ton of budget bows out there that I consider something worth buying. So if it's on our review channel, on Backyard Bows, and it's in that budget bow category, it's because we have thoroughly put it to our test here at the house. We've either shot it in the field, you know, and thought it was worthy enough to put on our budget bow category, and this is definitely one of them. So I love two things that they do. So G5, guys, Prime, Quest, they only make one bow. It's the Centec. They make a Centec Nexus, but that's for what looks like be a youth bow, but they make one bow. So they put all of their energy and effort into one bow so they can give us this bow for a good quality price. And this one has been out for a while. So they don't change up a lot on the bow. They might change a few colors. So this is the Big Sky color that they had online. And then if you look on the website for Quest, they have 4 other colors, two solid, 2 camo. But not a lot changes. And that's kind of how they have created this little niche. They have one bow, not a lot changes, and they are able to give it to us at honestly a great price, around $550. And we'll go over it, but if everything on this thing, minus the cable guard, is very higher quality. So, and not to mention, it has probably some of the best specs across the board. You got 32 inches axle with a 6 3/4 inch brace height. I mean, you can't get better than that. That's my favorite right there. As compact as you can get without giving away too much, especially at a longer draw length like mine of 30. It's 4.4 pounds. It fluctuates 2 different draw weight options, 40 up to 55 and then 55 up to 70. So you have a nice, you know, 2 options with a nice long fluctuation in case you do want to grow a little bit with the bow, or you like to shoot less in the off season. The IBO is not horrible. It's a 325 on the IBO. I feel like just looking at the cams, they're going to be a nice, you know, it's going to be a nice smooth draw. And then you have a nice fluctuation of draw length too, from 25.5 out to 31. But if you look at the riser, there's 2 things that stand out to me. One, you can tell it's engineered by Prime. It has that center grip, and the grip itself is honestly, for a budget bow, you can tell that it has a really nice design to it. It has a really nice angle, shape, feel. I love the grip. I love that they put a little bit of extra attention into that. And then the bow itself, it has the same bridges as kind of the Primes do, and it looks very similar. So we're gonna go Prime budget bow here. So on that riser too, you got your places for your 2-piece quiver. You have 1 burger hole and then 1 set of holes for your sight. If you go down to the limb pockets, they are metal, which I like to see. Most of those budget bows that we see, some of them can be plastic or plastic with a liner. I do love that these are nice and solid. It doesn't have any dampeners in between the limbs, which you can add, you can buy and add that in there if you want to kind of lessen that sound and feel. So it has a very similar, it looks like a bus tuning system from PSE, but it's more like a Matthews where that cable is not splitting. The cable wraps around this little loop right here, and then you have a separate cable. So there's 4 cables and 1 string, which kind of helps with cam lean. It kind of centers that cable on there. It helps equal that strain on either side. And then you got the cable guard. So the one thing I knew with just flinging a couple shots, the one thing I noticed is that it's putting a lot of stress on that little piece of plastic that slides on that rod, enough to wear a little bit of plastic around the top where it's kind of rubbing really hard. So that was the only one concern I had right from the initial thoughts, just from shooting it a couple times. But the cam system and mod system is really easy to use. You got a set of holes on the back, 1 through 12, 1 being 31 inches, and every hole up and down is a 1/2 inch increment. So you just line that bottom screw up with whatever hole it's on, and that's your draw length. And then you have the top screw, which kind of slides through as kind of like your second screw. But a really simple system to use. It just lines up with one of those holes, and that's the draw length that you're at. And then the string stop is the same one that we've seen on some of these primes. So let's go ahead, we'll shoot a couple inside, and then we'll go outside, we'll do our single shot assessment. All right, so back to that grip. I love the grip, I love where it's placed. I love the center grip on the primes, the inline and the Revex. I think that's just such a unique feature on a bow, and I think it does exactly what they say it does. I love that. I love that there's a lot underneath. As you know, you got these guys that if you use 2 stabilizers and use a backboard, they usually like it lower, kind of lowering that center of gravity. The center grip does that on itself. It kind of puts a lot more underneath your hand instead of above it. So for a bow that has that plastic piece sliding on the rod, it's a fairly smooth grip. It's not, you can feel that strain that I was talking about, and it kind of rubbing on there, but it's not, it's a nice linear pull from the front to the back. There's a little bitty drop off, but not anything that's jerky, bad, noticeable, anything that's negative. And I would say for a budget bow category, there's a little bit of vibration in your hand, but not a lot. And the back wall is really nice. So once it gets, I love the back wall. It's very nice. A little bit of vibration in your hand, but again, for a budget bow category, it's very nice. I like the weight distribution on this bow. 4.4 pounds is a nice, really weight. I'm telling you, the specs on this thing are almost perfect, just almost perfect. One day I'm gonna write down my perfect specs, but I think that this would be just right there. The weight feels really good. It balances real nice. I would say the one thing, and again, we will check, but the one thing is it seems to be on the hair on the louder side. But which is kind of surprising because it doesn't have a ton of vibration in your hand, but something, and again, you don't have that dampener in between those limbs. I'm sure that's going to factor into that sound, which maybe you can add something and that would lessen it. But for the moment, for the speeds it's getting, I like it. I like it. Let's go outside. We'll shoot a whole bunch. 3. All right, so now we're gonna do a freestyle shoot is what we call it, which is really where we just shoot as many arrows as we can through it before I get too tired. Tons of 3D targets all over from 20 yards up to 50 yards. I'll shoot all day. We'll do these first ones here on camera for you. So one thing I thought about as I'm kind of like setting all this up is, for those of you who are in the market for a budget bow, which is probably the majority of people, and especially the viewers, which I've come to realize, I think it's better for you to invest in something that you can now start getting reps, start practicing, start shooting than to wait until you want to get something that you think that you need, and you can always upgrade down the line, but I think it's best invest in a budget bow and start getting those reps in. I'm talking about the people who are brand new to archery or hunting. Repping it out, slinging arrows, getting some experience is so much better than kind of waiting for the perfect bow that you think you need or want to buy. And there's so many good budget bows out there. So we'll go bore at 30. We got 2 bucks down there at 35. All of our targets, or the majority of them, are Reinhardt. I think we have a Delta McKenzie Coyote. But also, if you're new to hunting, but I think, again, if you're new to hunting, you want to make a little investment. I love 3D targets. I love realistic. I love anatomy. I love shooting at something I can visualize. But Reinhardt has, across the board, from their block targets to the 3D targets, I think the best targets for your price. They seem to last the longest. I don't take mine out of the weather. I leave them out here all year long, and they seem to hold up in the weather the best, and they seem to last the longest. Some kind of deteriorate on you. But I would say this probably has some of the best, little vibration in your hand that you can get on the budget bow, on all the budget bows that we've done. This one is just, it's really nice, and I love the grip on this. All right, so this way we got tons of different targets. We'll climb this little 3D ladder. We'll start here at 20 on the turkey and then go all the way up to that elk at 50. Turkey season is right around the corner. So and again, I've been wrong, but my ears I feel like this is loud, but again, especially with the decibel readings, I've been way off at times, and thought something different, so we'll see. But I love the hold on this, and then the draw cycle. I've said it several times, but sometimes bows just kind of open up. They kind of loosen up as you shoot them more and more and more, and this one just seems to, like, this draw cycle is just better and better and better, where right now it's just an effortless, really smooth, effortless pull. All right, so now we got the Gray Wolf at 35. All right, so now we got 1 minute hold on Paddington. If you're new to my reviews and you haven't seen this, I think this is a good test for all of you. And I've actually had some feedback from some of you guys saying, hey, I tried the full draw stall and it was a lot harder than I expected. I know a minute doesn't seem like a long time, and I'm sure a lot of you assume, oh, I've been in the field and I've held for over a minute. It probably felt like that. It might have only been 30 seconds. Really try to hold for a minute. 2, if you really want to see how the back wall is, how solid it is, and how stable the bow is. You get up to 90 seconds or more, some bows will just be almost impossible to hold there. And again, if you've hunted long enough, you realize there's so many different scenarios that you can find yourself in that exact position. So we'll go 1 minute, little black bear. Pretty easy hold. Surprisingly easy. Really nice back wall. It never wanted to creep, not even for a second. That was surprising. And I feel like the balance of this bow too just helps every aspect of your kind of that full draw stability. The balance is super nice. So, and again, I'm gonna go ahead and say it, but I think it probably has than to do with that center grip. It's something that I have loved more and more and more. The more bows I've shot with that center grip feature, the more I've realized just how much better it holds at full draw, in my opinion. I think it's just really helps the balancing of the bow. All right, so now we'll go up the hill. We got an elk up there at 50 yards. This will kind of be another, test. At 50 yards, you can kind of really tell the stability of a bow as well. So let's just sling a couple. You can really, with the IBO and like the 320s, you can really see these arrows at 50 just like whoo, have an arch to them, and they kind of sink in there. Shoot one more. I like the stability, little vibration in the hand. I keep thinking in my head, like, I keep having to remind myself this is a $550 bow. It to me, it feels flagship. Feels like a flagship quality. I mean, has flagship features, flagship feel to it, performs nice. Draw cycle smoothed out just effortlessly. Really, really nice on the draw cycle. Not the cleanest shot cycle, but it held really nice at full draw. And again, let's step inside and see if my ears are right or wrong. But I think it's going to be on the hair on the louder side. And then the speeds, I think, especially with that lower grain arrow that we've been testing, the one that's about 440 grains, and that's probably what I would use with this if I was to make this my hunting setup. I think it'll be right in there, right where we want to see, somewhere in the 280s. So let's step inside real quick. All right, back inside for the speed test. 323 on the IBO, I think, somewhere right in there. We have a 500 grain arrow, 300 spine full metal jacket. We have it set at 70 pounds and 30-inch draw. So we'll sling this one, and then we'll also do those other two arrows for you like we've been doing. That's 268. And again, if this rises a little bit or teeters that 270 line, we'll shoot 5 shots, take the average, and try to give it a really accurate grade, because that's a big difference in the grading. 6 out of 10 and 7 out of 10. That's gonna factor in, I feel like, a lot in the final grade. So there's 270s. So we're gonna have a little battle here, and we'll see kind of where it averages out to be. And then we'll shoot a 440 grain and a 555 grain arrow, just for the viewers. 269, this thing is just gonna teeter right here, we will see. So if this one lands in the 260s, we'll give it the 6 out of 10. If it lands in the 270s, we'll shoot that final one. $272, okay. Last shot, tiebreaker. $270, awesome. So we'll go 7 out of 10 for the speed test. Now let me get these other two arrows that I kind of set aside, so we're always shooting the same arrows. What we have, we'll shoot the lighter one first. Right here we have a 400 spine full metal jacket. This one's 440 grains, which I think if I was to hunt with this bow, I would shoot a little bit lighter arrow just to compensate for some of those, that kind of arrow speed. So I think this would be a perfect arrow to shoot with this bow. And that gets me that perfect feet per second that I'm looking for at 280 feet per second. So that's exactly the arrow that I would hunt with. But if you hunt with a heavier arrow, this is 550 grains, 300 spine full metal jacket with that brass insert. This is probably, in my opinion, is gonna affect it quite a bit. Yeah, so now we're down to 255. So again, some bows have a little extra strength. You bump up that arrow weight, it really drops off, and some kind of hold their own. It all just depends. So let's turn it around and we'll see how loud this bow is. So something that I've been doing, and I know I mentioned it in some of the videos, but we keep it's a decibel reader on my phone, which I have right here, and this kind of keeps a graph of everything that we've done. So now that we've done like 10 bows, I can go back and compare all of the graphs. So we have all that data stored here, and then again, we have what we use for the reading up here so you guys can kind of see what I'm seeing. We use 3 of the exact same arrows. We'll shoot 3 shots. We'll take the average of the thing. I have a feeling this is gonna be louder. On the louder side of some of the bows that we reviewed. Hmm, 89.7. Again, that's why we're doing this, because I'm wrong. I think the louder bows have been in like the 92s, 94s. This is right there with the other prime bow that we did, the Revex. 87.9, so that's awesome. So again, I'm off. What I'm hearing was incorrect. This is right where the Revex was, which was the quietest bow that we've done today. 89.8, that is awesome, that's crazy. I was totally thinking the opposite, so I'm glad that we added that in there, just because I'm not nearly as efficient. So, all right, so the Centec by Quest. Again, this is that prime budget bow, the one and only, because as Prime does, they make their 3 bows, different axles, lengths, but you know, the 3 same bows, and then that's usually all they have each year. For a couple years, they had a couple dual cam bows and they had the single cam bows, but other than that, you know, they have the same bow, multiple different axle lengths, and that's kind of their style, which I like, and that's a whole different topic. But right off of the bat, I like that it climbed up a little bit. We got to give it the 7 out of 10. It was right around 270, 273 for the speed. So right off the bat, 7 out of 10. For quality and durability, I gave it a 7. I think a 7 is a really nice grade for a budget bow. But this has a lot of great little features on it. You know, the bow is very well made for a budget bow. Again, as I was shooting it, the more I shot it, the more I kept having to remind myself I had a budget bow in my hand, especially for the price tag. I mean, $550, that's kind of right on the lower, right in the middle, but right on the lower side of that. A really well-priced bow. Appeal, 8 out of 10. I love the way these look. I love prime bows. I think they're actually some of the sleekest bows on the market, especially in 2023. The Revex and the inline both were just beautiful bows, beautiful colors, camos, options. They just kind of do a really good job in that. Technology, I gave it a 6 out of a 10. I like that it fluctuates with the draw length. I like that it fluctuates with the draw rate. I love that it doesn't have the split cable. I think once you get it tuned, I think it will want to stay tuned for longer with this system. And then you got performance, which I think I gave it probably the higher tier of performance for a budget bow, and I gave it an 8. The bow balance is great. The draw cycle smoothed out beautifully. It was really easy to pull back, effortless to hold. You know, that back wall was so solid, and once those cams rolled over, it just kind of wanted to sit there really comfortably. Really effortless shot on that full draw stall. You know, stability at full draw is what we've talked about so much, and that's kind of what's most important. And I think for a budget bow category, this is probably one of the better ones that we've had in-house. You know, and then I was wrong with the noise. It was actually on the quieter end, a little bit of vibration in your hand, but I think just, you know, all around in all categories, you know, it just got, you know, very nicely done in all categories. Again, a little bit of wear and tear on that cable. I don't know how that plays out after shot 1000. I'm sure it probably eats up that cable a little bit. But speaking of budget bows, and again, we've talked about this as well, but if you're somebody who needs to get in the field, I promise you it is so much more important to invest in something, whatever you can invest in now. If it's a $400 bow, $500 bow, to get the bow in your hand, to get the experience, to get the infield experience, all of that is so vital to the success of your future harvest than to what piece of equipment that you use. And I've said this a ton, but if I was to use this every day in my daily reps, give me a month, give me 2 months, give me, you know, you give me half a year with this, I would feel just as comfortable with this as any of the flagship bows that I've shot from this year. So again, don't buy into the hype. The experience, the in-hand experience is so much more important than to what piece of equipment, what your setup is, what you're using. Just get to know and get to using whatever it is you decide to go with. And I think that's so much more important. But for budget bows, I think this is probably one of the better ones on the market. You can get this in several different stores. We'll put the links below. But very, very well priced bow. Don't buy a bow off of a single bow review. Make sure that you get several bows in your hands. And touching on that, we have shot, let's say 50 budget bows just to review the 11 or 12 that we've done. So again, get a whole bunch in your hands. You will find out that some stand out more than others. Hey, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, hit that like button, leave us a comment. I love interaction. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We have so much more to come. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook for updates of anything else that we're gonna review. If there's something that you're interested in, hit those links below and check them out. And make sure, no matter what your setup is, what bow you're shooting, get your reps in on the daily. We'll see you next week.